Hello and welcome to the Fox Valley Film Critics. It's year 2 and we're going to start a whole new slate of films. In this episode we're going to be reviewing the next in the lineup of the AFI's Top 100 Movies, It's a Wonderful Life, as well as the newest Star Wars film by Rian Johnson. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the show, brought to you by Groupthink Productions and FVTV. As I said in the intro, this is going to be the premiere of Season 2 of the Fox Valley Film Critics. And starting out a new year of movies, we're going to be reviewing another Star Wars film just like we did last year. Joining us as the guest for this episode is actor, YouTube star, and the star of Groupthink Productions' own Myself and Me, Tony Calkins.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Good to have you on. It's been a while since we kind of talked and stuff.
Yeah, it has been.
So yeah, we were going to start out with the AFI film, It's a Wonderful Life.
Sweet.
And this is I believe this is interesting for you because you did the Bat It's a Wonderful Life parody.
Yeah,
right?
I have a lot of experience with this movie because I did on my YouTube channel I did a parody of It's a Wonderful Life with Batman in the Jimmy Stewart role, and so it was kind of funny. And I in high school did a stage production of It's a Wonderful Life and played George Bailey, and that's kind of how I first got into loving this movie because I love this movie.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the Frank Capra. I don't know if it wasn't his last film, but it was probably his last really, really great film.
Yeah, it was.
Do you have any familiarity with his filmography outside of this?
I'm not too familiar with Frank Capra. I know he tried to start a production company with this movie, right? The Liberty Films.
Well, his fame as a director came before World War II, because this was his first film after the war, and same for Jimmy Stewart. He had been kind of this big director in the 30s. He mostly did screwball comedies. So he did It Happened One Night, Arsenic and Old Lace.
Right, yeah.
Meet John Doe, Meet Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. And he kind of capped it off with Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which is one of the greatest political thrillers / satires / Jimmy Stewart films ever.
Yeah.
It's sweet, and we'll get to it eventually on this show, I think, because it's in the top 100 list. But him and Jimmy Stewart both ended up involved in the war. I believe Capra was part of the propaganda department, so he did a series of documentaries for the war, for the United States Army, and did kind of like what's going on in the war. I don't know if he actually served in combat, but I know for a fact that Jimmy Stewart did. He flew a bomber squadron over Europe.
Interesting.
So if you had been in Europe at the time and were listening to your radios, you might have heard Jimmy Stewart over the radio because he was very adamant. The military did not like sending their actors out, like celebrities out into the front lines.
No, they didn't.
And he's like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to serve.
Yeah.
And they put him at the head of a bomber squadron and they had him fly over Berlin all the time. So
squad over Berlin, Jimmy Stewart's voice coming over the comm.
And I don't think he ever would have done like a comedy based on it because apparently he was badly traumatized by doing it.
Really? See, I did not know any of this.
It's a great story.
Okay.
He came back from the war. He was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life because I had an acting career and I just saw all this horrible stuff in war. And he came back, and he gets a call from Frank Capra, who's like, "I'm going back to Hollywood," and he had been the head of the Screenwriters Guild before he left for the war, but both of them lost all of their Hollywood clout at that point. So like, we're gonna go back to Hollywood. I have this great idea for a film. It's about a guy who's visited by an angel, and he's taught the true meaning of Christmas. And Jimmy Stewart was like, "Yeah, okay, I need the money."
Yeah, I guess I'll do it.
I'll do it for you. I need a reason to live right now, so I'll do it for you, Mr. Capra.
Yeah.
But they go and they shoot this film, and it didn't do well.
It didn't do well at all.
Yeah, it was probably his biggest bomb at that point. Like, I don't know what the gross was on his films up to that point, but this was probably the first time he had a film that was this big.
Originally, they didn't brand this as like a complete Christmas movie, did they? Or what?
I don't believe they did initially, because the film didn't really become a Christmas film until the rights on the film were the kind of dropped, and suddenly every network started throwing it in their Christmas bin. It's like
free.
yeah, it's like it's like, well, what do we got around the stable? It's like nowadays you see like TBS does their 24 hours of A Christmas Story on Christmas Day. This was like, well, we got It's a Wonderful, we got a Jimmy Stewart movie in back. It's like, well, just throw that on for 2 hours, kill some time. And it ended up just becoming something that built a following over decades because it would just be on every Christmas.
Yeah.
And it ended up just kind of becoming a great film over time, and it wasn't recognized so as first, which that may come up again with The Last Jedi, but
it just might.
But moving on to this. I think that, I don't know if this is my favorite Frank Capra film, but this is certainly one of my favorite films, like general.
Yeah, this is definitely in my top film of all time type of a thing, because it's from years ago, but it's a story that everyone can relate to, because you got this guy who's, he has dreams, he has passions, and he finds himself stuck in the same place just because, he really cares about everyone in his life, and he's constantly making sacrifices to, make sure his family gets a good start, make sure his family's business stays around, and the people in his town are okay, and eventually it just snowballs into this one kind of, I guess, iceberg moment into where he's like, is this the life I wanted? Type of a thing. And
I find this to be one of the most moralistic films I can think of offhand.
Yeah, I agree.
It says something very kind of pretty dark, honestly. It
does.
It's about the importance of good people in life.
It is.
It's about not just like good people in society, but being a good person, being someone who can actually make sacrifices. And it also says that you can be a good person and people will still go out of their way to try to hurt you. Like good actions may ultimately bring about terrible consequences, because there's the forces of battery in the world, like not battery, but badness essentially.
Yeah.
They will always be churning in the background of the world, the potters of the world.
Exactly.
And if you have to have these people who make the sacrifices, who don't go to college, who don't go off to become sports stars, who don't go off to war to become war heroes, who stay at home and take the boring job at the bank, who take care of their kids and marry the nice girl from down the road, who to do the good parts of society that have to be done. Because if you don't, you end up in Pottersville.
You do.
Where there's nothing but red light districts, and people are mean to each other, and people don't know how to get along. Because you need that kind of innate moral goodness to connect as a society and to kind of build a world. And I think that's kind of what makes the movies. It's kind of I don't know if I'd say this is an overly sentimental film.
No.
It's like there are scenes where the cheesiness goes off the charts, but
oh yeah.
But it's all completely cohesive, because the other side of that is that the movie gets very dark
and very real, and because there are those really cheesy moments, but then there's those points where you're like, I know what he's saying, like I know what he's feeling right now, and even though spoiler alert, even though
you know what, it's not a plot twisty film.
Yeah, no, it really isn't.
The part of the film everyone remembers is the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it's just, the thing is, when that moment he feels like so alone in an instance, it's when all those people he's made sacrifices for, you realize it all comes back around, because those people come up to come and help him. Like,
well, you see a world where he never made those sacrifices.
Yeah.
You see a world where he never made the hard decisions, and because I guess the macro story is him struggling in life. The micro story is the narrator of the film is an angel who's showing the film to another angel he's being sent down to Earth to save George Bailey's life.
Yeah.
And he basically has to explain the whole life of this man in an hour, because that's how much time he has until he gets down. And that's when you meet the angel, and he's the one who shows him the alternate timeline of a world where he gets what he wanted. He never existed.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, It is. There are very cheesy parts within that, but it is very. It shows that no matter what you do in life, everything has an effect and everything has a purpose. So even though you may feel like you've accomplished nothing, you've accomplished a lot. You just may not see it.
And George Bailey finds that out at the very end.
Yes.
Where everyone, including the people that are being set, well, because I guess the conflict at the end is his business partner has to get some money to the bank. They're a loan office, I think.
Yeah. They're basically, they loan out money for people to go get houses.
So they have loans that they have to pay the bank. And the bank, his business partner accidentally forgets the money at Potter's office.
Yeah.
And Potter's just like,
slip.
yeah, so no one's going to find that. And now suddenly they're thousands of dollars short, and the bank's like, we're sending the cops, and we're going to get you. And it all wraps up with the whole town comes together and just like, we're going to provide the money because you helped us, and we know this isn't your fault. So it ends up just being very sweet, and it comes full circle.
It does.
That's all the time we have for this segment, unfortunately. But come back for the next segment where we'll be discussing Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Spoilers and all. Stay tuned.
Does this help at all?
Anything helps, ma'am. Just try to get some sleep now.
I can't sleep.
Yeah, me neither. I'm on my way.
Okay, let's get this out of the way first. We're going to have to discuss spoilers, so this is going to be a fully spoiler segment. I know this is a social taboo that I'm crossing, so just know that we're going to be discussing that, and if you don't want to hear spoilers for Star Wars: The Last Jedi, please come back after you've seen it. But for now, we move forward. So yes, I guess
yes.
as it stands, Star Wars: The Last Jedi is, according to Rotten Tomatoes, the worst movie ever, which is bizarre, because I think both of us loved it.
Yeah, I will give it this. I left The Last Jedi the first time very conflicted and not knowing what I felt because it was just very different and it was so much to take in. So I'm like, okay, I got to see this. I saw it at 7 o'clock the night it came out. Then the next morning at like 8 a.m. for that $4.50 matinee price, went to see it again, and I loved it. I loved it the second time because it's not just a Star Wars movie, it's a Rian Johnson Star Wars movie. And isn't that what I feel like people have been asking for, like, different, and now that it's different, people don't like it?
Yeah, I had the same feeling of confliction, but it was, I kept thinking, I was like, why is the CGI the composite shot, what is the term? The
composition?
The composition shots, like where they would have to graft the CGI against the green screen. There were a couple shots where I was like, oh, that doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
There's the scene where Yoda shows up and it's the puppet, but it has the blue thing around it. And it's like that doesn't look very in camera, but you can tell it's a puppet, but it's a little bit weird. But other than those like nitpicks, like I was just thinking like, I need to think about the story because I don't know if it entirely works, but I think it's cohesive as a complete story, and I wanted to sit on it. And I've read some critics I trust, and on the critical side of things, people are happy with it. People think that it's probably, I don't want to say, this might be the third great Star Wars film up there with the first two.
Yeah, it's very bold, I think.
It's making the difficult story decisions that you have to make at this point. If the only way you're going to keep Star Wars alive from Disney's standpoint is you have to kind of break the mold in such a way that it fundamentally shifts the mechanism of the franchise. And that is, you have to move away from the Skywalkers, you have to move away from the Empire and the stuff like that. You have to criticize the story. You have to kind of analyze it and to understand what makes it work. And Rian Johnson is a very good classical storyteller who's made Brick, which one of our previous guest AJ talked about, and he also made Looper, which is an excellent sci-fi film.
It is a great movie.
Yeah. I could not have thought of a better director who could handle this. Abrams was fine from a visual standpoint,
Yeah.
but it's also a very disjointed film. He made, for The Force Awakens, a disjointed film. I like Rogue One a lot, but it's also, but the last hour, or the last half hour, doesn't really fit into the story, into Jen Orso's story all that well, and it screws up in a couple of important places. But this is the first Star Wars film from Disney that's completely cohesive.
It is. It is very cohesive. And I also feel that maybe people, I want to talk less about the people, maybe more about the movie.
We can talk about both.
Yeah, okay. I just feel like maybe people had run into this movie after 2 years of like just theorizing and came up with their own ideas in their head.
People thought this was going to be a very similar to Force Awakens.
Yeah, I think people, the first time people saw it, they were like, well, this isn't what it was supposed to be. Well, who says what it's supposed to be?
Disney knows what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It was supposed to make $1 bills, y'all.
Yeah, exactly, making that money. So I don't think people, I think people just need to kind of, before you go see this movie, separate yourself from your own personal theories and what you want, watch the movie, and then be like, okay, was this as a movie and as a story and connecting to the universe a good film? And I'd say yes, it is.
It's one of the first Star Wars films we've gotten in a while that actually says something about these characters. It says something about people, which is exactly the kind of story you want. You want something that actually has something daring to say, and it's a movie about failure. It's a movie about your legends not living up to you. It's a movie about people trying to rebuild like some semblance of an old style of life and making things worse. And it's about like the inevitability and things like. There's a lot of themes around this film, and I want to kind of think about it more and see it more before I get a full placing on it, because I don't know where it places against the other ones, because I've seen some people are like, it's better than the first one. I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, I still am. I don't know where it falls on my list.
The New
either.
Hope.
Yeah, no, I don't. I wouldn't say that. But I mean, other than I like the movie. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's going to age very gracefully. I think it's going to be one that people grow to like a lot more. And we were saying it's a Wonderful Life. People didn't see that one. People are seeing The Last Jedi, but they're actively mad at it.
Yeah.
Which it's so bizarre. And like and most of the complaints when I'm seeing people talking about it is like, oh, they did Luke Skywalker's characterization wrong. He's not a coward. He doesn't make mistakes. I'm like,
that's so inhuman, though.
He's a character who's aged 30 years and watched his entire legacy just be destroyed. He's broken beyond the point of repair, and this is exactly who he would look like at that stage in his life.
Yeah, and well, diving into the movie, I really think the story was all great, and I think I love the relationship between Rey and Kylo Ren, and some of the best stuff in the movie were those scenes where they were, in my opinion, where they were force talking to each other, I guess you can say.
Yeah, so we find out that Snoke has been kind of connecting them through the Force.
Yeah.
He's been kind of manipulating them because he wants them to kind of develop a kind of a relationship of sorts, because he wants to talk to Rey, so they can get the information he needs, so he can continue his plans. And they are forced to kind of relate to each other, and they start talking to each other. And at one point, you physically see a drop of water like transmutate across space and time.
Yeah.
Which I thought was fine. Like, the whole point of the Force is that it's drawing a lot from like Taoism and Buddhism, where the whole idea is that the world is an illusion and things like that. So I thought the idea that the Force is something that transcends the physical, it makes sense. Apparently, people don't like the new Force powers, though.
See, but like, are they all that new? I just think they were filmed in a different way, because in Empire, Luke and Vader on the Millennium Falcon have a conversation with one another, don't they? And Leia sees Luke hanging under Cloud City, so I just think maybe, yes, this goes a little further than that, but it's all in the same, it's just, I think it's exploring deeper into the same type of Force we know.
It's deeper. That's the
deal.
It
is deeper.
It's digging into the source material and finding new ways to explore it and push it in a new direction, which is exactly the way it should be.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. The one plot line that I just think could have been erased from the movie was where they go to the casino planet.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
honestly, that didn't bother me.
Really? I mean,
Everyone who likes the movie is just like, oh well, it doesn't fit. And it was like, well, the only real problem is that they're cutting it between that keep cutting between the scenes in the casino and the ships, which are under attack. Which is I can get why that'd be a little bit tonally frustrating, but it's no different to me than like Empire Strikes Back, where they're cutting back between the space chase and Luke on the planet. So it's not like it's a deal breaker to me, and I thought that the scenes themselves were fun. So it's not like it didn't annoy me at all.
I guess in my eyes, it's just kind of like I felt that the scene was only there in the end so we can get to Benicio del Toro, and like in the end,
But it's also there to establish the final shot of the film.
Yeah. That's
Which
also why that's there. And I
think-
love that, and I really loved that.
I think
shot.
that alone just justifies it.
That's fair. I will not complain about that. Space Ponies was not a huge thing on my list either of things I loved.
That felt like something out of like one of the Rebels cartoon or something.
Yeah. That's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah, it's like, what is this? This feels like deep lore Star Wars is like, we have to escape the planet. We'll ride the space horses out.
I'm like, oh man. Okay. But
I dug it for that reason, but
okay, yeah, and to each their own. And I don't know. I really liked this movie. I felt like the journey of all the characters was very, very appropriate. There were a lot of moments I got chills. I loved that. Yoda might have come off a bit awkward, but I loved the scene because Yoda's just like, get your head out of the books. Like, you're missing the point. Like, it doesn't have to be structurally like everything follows the rules exactly.
you need to be moving in the right direction, not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And he says, like, it's not just your perfections. You don't teach the hero. You also have to teach your failures. Because if you don't have your failures, how do you learn? And that's part of Kylo Ren's, like, erase the past. No, you can't do that.
Yeah. There's so many characters that get really deep stories in this, especially with Kylo Ren. He's rapidly becoming like the best character.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. And him and Rey the way they're two sides of the same coin is great.
Yeah, I will say overall, I really do hope people start warming up to this sooner than later, because I don't want to get into this thing where everyone just hates it now. But that's all the time we have to discuss The Last Jedi. Join us for the final segment where Tony will give us his movie recommendation for the week. Stay tuned.
Good coffee, huh?
Oh my God! What are you doing in my apartment?
Hello and welcome to the final segment. Now we're going to hand things over to Tony to discuss his movie recommendation for this week.
All right, my movie recommendation. I went with Brigsby Bear, which is a independent movie that was released earlier this year. Also has Mark Hamill in it.
I see the connection.
Yes, even so, I'm like, oh, it fits well with this because we're doing Star Wars. But even so, I would have picked this movie anyway because I wish more people had seen it. It is just so unique and different, and especially if you're into like independent filmmaking, you're gonna love this movie. It's about this guy who basically makes this movie called Brigsby Bear. It's about this Brigsby Bear is like this show he watched as a kid, and he really fell in love with it, and the main character starts to have some personal issues, and he doesn't know how to talk to people and certain things like that. So he finds a way to connect with the world through making this movie. So him and a group of friends he meets along the way set out to make this very like backyard film about this character called Brigsby Bear. And it's just fantastic because it's fantastic for me, and you'd probably connect with it too, because anyone who's ever made a movie with their friends will like see parts in this film that's like, oh, that's me, and that's all my friends in this. And Mark Hamill does a great job in this role. If you want to see him as something other than Luke Skywalker, he plays like a father figure. I don't want to go fully into his character because that, I guess, is a spoiler, and the surprise factor with that adds to the movie. But
Sure.
it's a fantastic movie. If you can check it out, I highly, highly recommend it. I put it at like number 4 or 5 best movie of the year.
That's pretty high praise.
Yeah.
This has been a very good year for films.
It has been fantastic.
Like I don't think there's been a clear Oscar contender quite yet, but everything has been above average the whole year. We got Logan, John Wick 2.
Logan was great. John Wick 2 was fantastic.
There's been like a dozen. I've been kind of assembling my year-end list, and nothing has really popped up as the one that's the clear winner. But
Yeah, I'm with you on that because there were so many good ones.
I didn't see the movie, but I saw like ads for it at like theaters and stuff. So I kind of had an idea that it was around. I never got around to watching it.
Yeah, the trailers were. I only watched it because I had nothing to do one day, and the trailers didn't buy me because the trailer didn't sell what the movie was. I thought it was like this weird cosmic movie about a bear. I'm like, what is this? But I'm like, $4, I'll go see it, and I really liked it. So yeah.
That's how that usually works.
Yeah.
Do you have a Best Picture contender then?
Oh, Best Picture contender. What I love in my heart and soul is for Logan to be.
That would be the smart money because that's kind of high up there. But it's not really clear.
Yeah, it isn't. I saw The Disaster Artist, which I thought was fantastic.
My goodness, quick mini review for that. That's Disaster Artist is really, really good.
Oh yeah, it is so good because that could have just been a flat out comedy, and they made it a story about like this guy who's trying to do his thing, and you're just like, go dude, do it.
Yeah, it's not as good as Ed Wood, but
yeah, no,
few things ever can be really. But so yeah, go see Disaster Artist and all of the movies he recommended and we talked about. That's all the time we have for this episode of the show. Thank you again for a full year of this, and we're going to come back for more to come. I'm super excited for that. You can follow me on Twitter at AnySocialCritI if you want to complain to me about my opinions on The Last Jedi. You can find more of my reviews at theanysocialcritic.tumblr.com and at Geeks Under Grace, which I was just accepted to as a contributor. You can find more episodes of this show at the Groupthink Productions YouTube page, and you can find him on YouTube.
YouTube.com/TonyTJ7.
Epic. I'm Tyler with the Fox Fellow Film Critics. Have a wonderful day, guys.